Today, I'm going to share with you myself in the spotlight. Today is a special video. It's about me today. Glory be to God. Welcome to D. Weaver Art here on YouTube, the channel for art lovers who love realistic and impressionistic style portraits. Today is part 3 in a series I title Portrait Spotlight. Now, if you're new to the D. Weaver Art channel, I urge you to subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell. By doing so, you'll receive instant alerts on new content and material. Now, with that being said, please watch and enjoy this video. As young as I can remember, I have always been interested in drawing and art. I remember when I was 5 years old, going to kindergarten for the very first time and being among other kids my age, and how excited I was to have the opportunity to learn, but also the opportunity to create. When they gave me paper, when they gave me crayons, when they gave me things, markers, things to draw and make marks with, I was so excited, especially when they introduced me to watercolors. I think that was the very exposure for the first time in my life. I had the privilege and opportunity to create with paint. I remembered the smell of the paint. I'm saying watercolor, I believe it was watercolor, but it had a distinct smell to it I was very fascinated with. But that sparked something in me that caused me to want to continue to create. And as a young artist, I was really just drawn and fascinated with trucks and cars and the tires, the actual metal, the shapes that I saw. When you're young, you don't know any better, but you would simplify things. And just basic shapes were basic shapes, just like any other child would draw and stuff. But the thing I believe that made me probably different at that time in my life, being very young, is the fact I put a lot of emphasis on the shape itself, the circles, the squares, the triangles, just flat shapes, geometrical shapes. I really was fascinated with the big trailer trucks. I would see them when my parents would drive me from here and there and to and fro. I would see these trucks, massive size trucks, and I was always fascinated with their appearance and the vast size of them. I continued to draw all the way up, all the way up to high school. And prior to high school, I say it was around 6th grade, I had taken the thought or the idea to draw the people on. I advise you, son, to make sure you draw the people bigger than what you see them. In other words, you draw so good that people think you traced. Or out of a magazine, mainly what she was referring to. Not so much the people on the TV that was drawn, but like I'll have magazines or different magazines that had people's faces on them. I'll sit there and draw them. And she'd say, "You draw them so good, son. I know you're so good. I'm so proud of you. You draw them so good. Why don't you just start?" I suggest that you draw them bigger than what they look like, because people will accuse you of tracing, and that's how good your drawing is. And I was really pleased, and I was very blessed to get that wise advice from my mother. Through the years, I continued to be faithful to drawing and things like that. And to the point where now I've entered into high school. I've always wondered prior to that, I've heard that there were people getting art lessons to be able to draw and everything. And finally, I got the opportunity at my school. It was the 11th grade. When I got to the 11th grade, I took a art course. They had an art course at my high school, and they had that art course for about 2 years. I had started an art program, and I was just drawing and got a chance to get exposed to other forms of art besides drawing. It was there where I got introduced to the different forms of art, like three-dimensional art, like I forgot what it's called, paper mache. You make a mask and stuff like that. It was just very different for me, but I've always drawn back to the two-dimensional, 2D art of drawing, and got exposed to painting as well. My art teacher, I'll never forget, God rest his soul, before he passed away, he was my art teacher. He gave me some great advice on how to draw the human face, the portrait. I was really fascinated with his art. He was a master at charcoal. And at that time, I thought charcoal was really unruly. I had no control. I didn't like it at the time. But through the years, after I graduated, being honors in art in my school with my art, I went to the University of North Alabama, and I studied there for about 3 years, and I got exposed to some good instructors. Looking back on that, I understand that the school that I went to did their very best to teach me as much as they knew and understood about art, but I felt like I needed more. I didn't complete my schooling there. I dropped out, and I continued to draw on my own and paint. And as a matter of fact, I think I got my probably first commission back in 2002. A lady where I was working at, I was doing so much drawing and stuff at the time. I would show people my artwork, and the lady would say, "Hey, can you do me a painting of me?" Well, at that time, I didn't have an understanding. Listen, I had went to school. We had not dabbled, but we had done painting with colors and stuff, but I was very familiar with the grayscale and blacks and white. Well, it worked out perfectly because what she wanted me to do was a picture of her in black and white. I said, sure, I'll be glad to do that. And it was a figure of her. And so I painted her. It was one of the largest paintings at that time that I did. She loved it. I got paid for it. I was very delighted to be able to do that. And it just triggered something in me. If I could do that one time, I could continue to do that. And so I just continued to create and paint. And when opportunities came for me to do a commission piece, I would accept it. Now, back in 2008, I believe, I was at work. A minister was in the department where I was working at, and he happened to be into art. And what's interesting to me is that I happened to be in the ministry myself at that time. I had done some public speaking engagements with young people and everything, and I was active in my local church. And I'm still active in my local church, but this particular church that I attended, I was a youth minister at that time. So this man that was pastor at his church, I got a chance to meet him, and he showed me that he did artwork, and I was like, what? I was blown away at his work because it was very inspiring work. It's very good. And he told me, after I told him, hey, I love to draw and paint too. And you know what was ironic about that, guys, is that we happened to be in a paint deck getting paid to paint. Getting paid to do something that we really didn't love, but had an ironic drawback to it, that we were getting paid to do something we didn't love, but on off the shift and off away from work, we would get paid selling our art and creating art. And that's from there on back, I got very serious, because at that time, probably when he got into that paint deck with me, and it was his first 2 days or whole, he didn't stay long. He actually stayed for a couple of weeks, and then he was no longer there working with me. But he encouraged me, get back into your artwork, because prior to him coming, I had stopped painting for a long time. I just put away the pencils, put away the paintbrush, and just completely just abandoned it until he came, stirred me back up. And ever since then, I've been creating art. I started my YouTube channel, D Weaver Art, back in 2014. And I've been on this channel ever since, creating art that I love, and to inspire and motivate artists that are out there. And I've been very blessed to have the privilege to be able to draw, paint, and share with you guys a lot of my art friends and people who have inspired me on this channel. Yes, so the thing about the materials I used, I have experience in all of the materials, two-dimensional materials, of course, markers, paints like oil paint, acrylic paint, watercolor. But I best when it comes to paint, I'm right now really comfortable with acrylics. And most people who paint, they tend to either paint watercolor with watercolor or oils. Me, it's acrylic. I love acrylic. Now, oils is great, don't get me wrong, and oils, but due to the fact of my financial situation at the time, I just have grown comfortable with acrylics. And I have done a few things in watercolor, but acrylics is really one of the paints or mediums that I like working in. I also love, and I had told you earlier, that my art teacher from high school, he was a master when it came to charcoal. And so now I have, God rest his soul, he actually passed away in 2013. But now at this time, this day, I would say I'm very good and have somewhat, I would say, mastered charcoal. I've worked with it wet, but I primarily work with it dry. And I love drawing with charcoal. It's one of my favorite mediums to use when it comes to drawing. And painting, of course, as I said. Start out with the proportions by drawing basically the shapes. I'm getting to the point now, I've done quite a few paintings, portrait paintings that I'm very, I kind of change it up. I don't have a set standard, but I just just look at my subject matter really well, determine where my darks are at, establish my darks, get actual underpainting established, and just take the paint and draw with the paint, just basically getting the features down in the proper place. And the thing I like about the paint is that, you know, you can, if you make a mistake, you can always correct it. Yes, even with acrylic paint, you can correct that. You can correct that. And the thing that's been a game changer for me as an artist working with acrylics is the Liquitex Slow Dry Medium Gel. Yeah, that's right, the Liquitex Slow Dry Medium Gel. I use that every time I use my acrylic paints. I mix that into my paint and a spray bottle because, as you guys know that work with acrylic, it's water-based and it dries pretty quick. But these are retarder mediums that you can place in your paint that helps with the drying process to slow it down. In connection with the subject matter in some way or another, inspired by the appearance of it, inspired by the personality themselves, that it bleeds into the creativity itself. I can basically see it done. If it's that saying, if you set your mind to it, you can do it. Well, that's what it's like for me as an artist. If my heart is truly into the subject, rest assured, I believe I can put my heart into the art. If I put my heart into the art, it shows, and to the point where I have had people get emotional over my art, and I find that very humbling. It's rare, doesn't happen all the time, but there are times, particularly when it comes to people who have loved ones who have passed away. That's understandable, but when they say, whether it's a loved one of them that have passed away or just a loved one that's alive in their lives currently, they still are very fascinated at the fact that way I capture the likeness of the person. And so, like I said, just start out with the line painting, of course the underpainting, get the color ground, and then get all the darks blocked in. And then all of a sudden you start adding the color, and then intensify the color as you continue to build on the surface. Because remember, at the end, all painting is layers of shapes and colors of value. That's all it is. The thing I would say is about those who aspire to be artists is never give up on your dream. If you got a burning drive, a desire, something that won't let you go in your thoughts, then you need to pursue that, connect with it. Pray to God, ask the Lord to guide and bless what He puts in you, because that creativity comes from Him. He's our prime example of what creativity and what an artist is like. Look at our suns and our winters and our falls, those colors, beautiful colors in the sky, the creation and animals and even human beings, the beauty that's there for us to behold and enjoy. That's why I do what I do. That's why I paint. That is why I draw. Like what you just saw? Then hit the like button. Also, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the subject. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at the letter D Weaver Art. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and see you next time.